faith is not just something you do with your mind. It's a transaction of your heart that changes the way you live your life. I love Hebrews 11 says, you believe that God exists. That's that.
Well done, right?
But that he rewards those who seek him. Mm-hmm. There's the living aspect of faith. I don't think we say it enough. The theology that you actually believe and the true sense of belief is the one you live.
Right. The law of praying is the law of believing.
Absolutely. And to be used of God to bring that kind of connectivity between what we proclaim and what we say we are to the way we actually do our work, the way we actually think of our identity, the way we think of our community is so important because there is a way in ministry that it's impossible to give away what you yourself don't have.
That's right. And that's where prayer and abiding with Christ is so huge. So before I didn't have time to pray. I'd pray on the fly, I'd pray for this or that. We'd have public prayers or whatever, but I didn't spend extended time in prayer because that would be selfish. That would be taking away from the ministry. Whereas my schedule shifted to where that became one of the most important works that I did in ministry. And one of the ways the Lord gripped me related to that was, right after the transfiguration in the Gospel of Mark, they've literally been up on a mountaintop, and Jesus and his disciples come down, and the other disciples are gathered, and there's a crowd, and there's this clamoring going on, and you see this, father who has brought his son who has a demon, and this demon's wrecking this young boy and wreaking havoc in his life. And Jesus walks up and he says, hey, what's going on here? And the father explains, and he says, I brought him to your disciples, but they couldn't cast him out. And then, Jesus cast the demon out. And what really impacts me, there's a beautiful passage, I believe, help my unbelief. But after the demon gets cast out and the disciples are with Jesus, they ask him the hard question. Why couldn't we cast him out? They had just gotten sent out by Jesus to do that very thing. And they'd been successful. They came back celebrating. And you remember he kind of pushes that down. Like, don't celebrate that. Celebrate that your name is written in the book of life. And he says very simply, this kind can only be cast out by prayer. Now, when I look at Japan's story, and I think about the fact that there's no shortage of missionaries that have come. There's a long history of Christian connection. Why in the world is this still an unreached people group? And you can talk about shame dynamics and collectivism and so many different pieces. But one of the biggest things is that this is, in some sense, a spiritual stronghold. Amen. This is a place that Satan does not want people to turn to Christ. He does not want to see the gospel move forward. And so if we want to see him cast out, it's this real simple thing that Jesus says to the apostles, it's you didn't pray enough. And so, as a missionary, it's like, I have to give even more time to prayer. In fact, it might be the most important thing that I can possibly do beyond the projects and strategies and resource creation and training and even frontline evangelism.
Yeah, and it does remind me of Paul talking about divine power to break down strongholds.
Amen.
That for all the good of human effort, and God does use human effort to propel the gospel, it's not enough.
That's right.
It's not
enough.
Right.